back, everybody, to the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, your season-long source for news, analysis, and fun. Because in this podcast, Bruce, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
No, if you look at my draft board, it's pretty ugly at the moment. So,
like a lot of them out there, pretty ugly indeed.
It's ugly.
Oh. And we're already having some technical difficulties. There we go.
And Devin's gone.
And I'm gone. Okay, I'm Devin Davidson. I'll be your host tonight. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Bruce Gunther. Bruce, how you been, buddy?
Frazzled. I'm frazzled. It's just a whole lot of running.
Yeah,
a whole lot of running.
The hacks are all a mess right now, it sounds like. I mean, you were running everywhere. Tyler kind of joined us briefly tonight, but he is not feeling so well, and he's been incredibly busy himself. So,
as I said, my son made the A team for volleyball in school, so we are going. They've got 4 practices a week, and they're in tournaments every weekend for the next 8 weeks, except for Thanksgiving.
Well, congrats to him. That's awesome. I'm sure he's excited to be on the A team this year. That's really cool.
He's worked really hard to get there, so it's been fantastic.
That's awesome.
The thing is, I haven't had a chance to watch him yet because my wife and I have stuff booked on the weekends, and then he made the team, and now it's like we can't go and see because we got all this other stuff booked. So we'll get some. I got some time later on in early October. I'll have some time. I can actually go to the tournaments with him and watch him play.
You guys will get there. You'll make it work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always do.
All right. Well, I was going to mention, I forgot to mention, dear listener, if you like what we're doing on the show here, please give us a follow on Twitter at FHHacks or on Instagram at Fantasy Hockey Hacks, and leave us a review on your platform of choice, be it Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But a 5-star review really helps us to reach other fantasy managers and to spread the word on the podcast. So that would be appreciated. Bruce, some news today for the podcast as well. We brought on our buddy Chris, and I don't know yet how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to try. But Chris, we really appreciate you jumping on with us and joining us as a writer and a contributor this year. So for our listeners, if you're looking for some fantasy hockey content, if you want to read a weekly blog, is essentially what Chris is going to do. Every Saturday, I believe, is the schedule we talked about.
Nice.
And he's kind of thinking something like a 32 Thoughts format. He's just going to try and cover, as much of what's going on in the hockey world in terms of fantasy and maybe some prospect content. And so really excited for that. And we've got the boys from Dynasty Puck, Ryan and Evan, are going to get back on the mic this week too. So we're going to have 2 episodes a week now, Bruce.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So it should be a good season. We're really looking forward to it. Thank you to everyone that's been listening and supporting us to this point. Tonight, we are doing episode 185, 2024-25 Top Target Series, the Central Division. And as we've mentioned on previous episodes, for the purpose of this episode here, we're going to talk about a top target as a player that is either undervalued by their current ADP or someone that Bruce or I believe are going to be in line for big seasons, whether that's injuries to a teammate, maybe a change in deployment, coaching system, whatever the case may be. Our focus too is on largely players that can be found in mid or late round drafts of a 12-team redraft league. And so usually what happens in a case like this is I divulge my entire draft strategy and Bruce just picks apart all the players that he may be interested in later.
Although I think on this list we were very close. I only had maybe 1 or 2 players different than what you had here. So it's
we were definitely on the same page in terms of the goaltenders.
A little scary, actually.
Yeah. Well, Bruce, we played so much fantasy together over the past 5, 6, 8 years.
That's true.
We kind of the players I like, and I almost know to a T when Bruce is going to pick somebody off waivers, make a waiver claim or something. Oh yeah, that's a Bruce guy. He's going to pick him up for sure. So
and there he goes. Tyler scoops him up first.
Yeah. So I mean, enough blabbering out of me, Bruce. Let's get into it here. We got our forwards. We're going to go through some defensemen, and we'll get through some goaltenders as well. So our first guy on the list here is Teuvo Teravainen out of the Chicago Blackhawks, left wing, right wing eligible. 90% rostered in Fantrax, 34% rostered in Yahoo. His ADP right now, and again, I'm going to preface this by saying nobody really cares about Yahoo ADP. I get it. They're not accurate. They're out to lunch right now, but that's okay. Just for our purposes, we're going to use them. 173.8 is his ADP, going somewhere in the 5th round. He's lined up here.
15th round?
What's that, Bruce?
The 15th round?
What did I say?
5th?
The 5th. The 15th. 1-5.
We would love by the end of the season if he is in that with his totals, that would be fantastic. But
we'd love that.
We would
100% we would. So it looks like he's going to play with Connor Bedard and Philip Kurashev on that top line and on the top power play. He's coming off a 25-goal season, Bruce, 53 points. This is the place he started his career.
Briefly.
Right? He did have some success playing in Chicago when he started his career, and it wasn't, to the level he's maybe had in seasons since then. But he's going to have the good fortune of playing with Connor Bedard, both at even strength and on the power play. For that reason alone, does that interest you for the upcoming season?
Absolutely. Anybody that can play next to Connor Bedard. Well, last year I picked someone else that is further on down our list, and it didn't go quite as well as I had hoped, but they've picked up some more, I guess, veteran players. So Teravainen's been in the league for a few years now, and they're surrounding him with some guys so he doesn't have to do everything, which is nice. And I think they're all going to benefit from the Bedard effect, as we'll call it. I think I'm hoping there's a lot of internal fighting with a lot of the players to get on the line with Bedard, but
yeah, they've made a lot of changes in Chicago, right? And Tyler Bertuzzi could be on that top line as well. So, I mean, I mentioned Philip Kurashev, but it could be Tyler Bertuzzi. It could be Taylor Hall. They brought in Ilya Mikheyev. Nick Foligno's back this year. Craig Smith. Mm-hmm. Even their defense looks better. They got Alec Martinez and TJ Brody on their third pairing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they made some nice adjustments here. I like you said, to your point, Connor Bedard's not going to have to do it all by himself. I think that in terms of puck possession, they might have a little better situation this year with some experienced NHL defensemen on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah. They brought Brossoit in. So when Mrazek has his annual groin injury, they got someone to fill in for him.
Is Brossoit going to be back for the start of the regular season? I can't remember. What was the timeline on his injury?
I think he's going to miss a little bit of the regular season, if I remember correctly.
But you and I both love Laurent Brossoit. That is
we love LB.
That's a 0G streamer. That's a guy that, matchup dependent. You and I will definitely be looking at.
Absolutely.
What else did I want to mention about Teravainen? Okay, so like I said, going in the 15th round, I think he's got an opportunity to really return some value. Even if he goes, how high would you look at picking up Teravainen, Bruce? Just given that he's playing where he is potentially for this season.
I don't know if I'd go a whole lot higher. I think I'd probably maybe a round or so. It all depends for me who's available at the time.
Sure. Yeah,
that's because there's a few guys on this list I would take ahead of Teravainen. So just because these other guys have been in their positions for a while, where Teravainen's coming in new, but if your draft is near the end of training camp and you can see where if he ends up on line one with Bedard and he ends up on power play one, then you might want to go an extra round earlier or two, even depending on how your league is set up, and because if he gets that kind of deployment, it's he's got the potential to put up some points.
He does. I mean, he's a guy that scored 20 plus goals 4 different times in his career. I like the deployment. I think he's familiar with the organization, with the city. So I think this is going to be a comfortable situation for him. Looking at the underlying numbers, though, I do have a couple concerns. One being he shot a career 17.6% last season, well above his career average of 10.7% and his 3-year average of 12.1%. And then on the power play, he shot a career best 23.6%, way above his career average of 12.9%. So just looking at what he did last year, I think it's going to be tough to repeat. But it's really tough to argue with that deployment, assuming that he can stick on that top line. So our projection for Teravainen, 20 goals, 57 points, 20 power play points, 185 shots on goal, 19 penalty minutes, 17 hits, and 32 blocks.
Very nice.
So there you have it. All right, let's move on to the next guy here. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this guy, given that he scored the game winner in the Western Conference Final, 2 or 3 years ago when they beat the Oilers.
Yes.
But he's a fantastic player. Arturi Lehkonen, right-wing eligible for the Colorado Avalanche, 78% rostered in Fantrax, 46% rostered in Yahoo. His current Yahoo ADP, Bruce, 163.3. He's going in the 14th round. Looks like he's going to play with Casey Middlestat and Nikolai Kovalenko, and he's going to get some power play one time. So this is a guy I think will surprise a lot of people. He plays a lot of minutes. He's played well over 20 minutes in parts of the past 2 years. I don't think he gets enough credit for his offensive production. He's been a very effective player, a fantasy relevant player as a member of the Colorado Avalanche. He's produced at a 62-point pace or better over the past 2 seasons. And two, this is interesting, Bruce. I was digging through his numbers, and it's maybe less relevant for fantasy purposes, but in the postseason, he's been really good, and he's gotten better in each of the past 3 seasons. So he posted a 57-point, a 70-point, and an 82-point pace in the 2021, 22, and 23 playoffs. He played 22-11 time on ice last year, posting 11 points and 6 goals in 11 playoff games.
Yeah, he's a playoff performer. We saw that even before he went to Colorado. When he played for Montreal, he was a playoff performer.
And I think the thing for me about him is there's a situation right now. We don't know what Landeskog's health's going to be necessarily. He is skating right now. I've seen some clips of him, doing some informal skates and things like that. And the word is that he is going to return this year, but we don't exactly know when. We don't know what kind of shape he's going to be in when he gets there. Valeri Nichushkin, right, back on the player assistance program. He's got all sorts of issues. So there's some time on ice here for Lehkonen to make an impact, I think, fantasy-wise this year.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, it's going to hinge on these 2 players. And I had a third point, too, on it. I forgot what it was, too. But, yeah, if both Nichushkin and Landeskog make it back this season, unfortunately, it's going to push him out of the top 6 and out of the off of power play 1, too. So that's going to put a big dent in his point totals if that does happen.
For sure.
That's my only reservation with Lehkonen.
Keep that in mind. One thing too, Bruce, is at even strength over the past 3 years, he's ranked inside the top 150 among all skaters that have played 500 minutes or more. 2.04 points per 60. That puts him in line with players like Brock Besser, Lucas Raymond, Gabe Vilardi, Cam Atkinson, Chris Kreider, and Drake Batherson. So
some nice company there.
Even if he's not getting the power play time, at even strength, he's doing some good things. He could be a regression candidate, so this is one more thing to look out for. 15.5 individual shooting percentage was above his career average of 10.4% and his 3-year average of 13.7%. His team's even strength shooting percentage with him on the ice at 11.5% was up as well. 0.51 secondary assists per 60 and a 28% power play shooting percentage were all well above average for him in his career. So he's definitely a regression candidate in some aspects, but I just think if he's getting that deployment, if he's producing an even strength, that's a player that's going to help your fantasy roster.
Absolutely. If he gets the deployment, he will, because I've had him now in Yahoo the last 2 years. And I just remember the third thing is injury issues. He hasn't he only played 45 games last year and 64 games the year before. So that's the only other thing that might derail him is he's a little he's only played a full season once, and that was with Montreal.
Okay. So there you go. If he does play 82, Bruce, our projection for him, 23 goals, 63 points, 23 power play points, 204 shots on goal, 32 penalty minutes, 103 hits, and 48 blocks.
Oh, very nice. He can be a very nice complimentary player.
And two, like I said, the whole purpose of these top target series, we're trying to find guys that aren't necessarily right in your face, right? These aren't the Leon Draisaitl and the Nathan McKinnons of the world. These are, some guys later in your draft that might make an impact. So
absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the next guy here. Matt Duchene, center right wing eligible for the Dallas Stars, 91% rostered in Fantrax, 63% in Yahoo. Right now going on average at 155.5 in the 13th round. He's penciled in to play with Mason Marchment and Tyler Seguin on the second line and the second power play unit. But, Bruce, with Joe Pavelski retiring, there's a spot on that top right wing spot. Is it going to go to Duchene or is it going to go to Wyatt Johnston? And is Duchene going to center that second line? So those are some things we're going to have to keep a close eye on during training camp. But what's your take on that? Like, where do you see Duchene starting the year?
I kind of think I see him on the second line to start the season. Is where I see him. I'm just going to look up the projected line combos here for Dallas. I don't have it up.
Sure.
Did they
While you're doing that, Bruce, I'm just going to say Matt Duchene's a guy that I've personally drafted in a lot of leagues over the years. And he's generally returned value for me. He's had a couple down years, obviously, but I did pick him up when he had that, whatever it was, 40 goal, 80 point season. And he's coming off a 25 goal, 65 point year just this past season, and I think largely on the same roster in Dallas, right? So I think he can replicate what he's done. Aside from a slightly elevated Tevish, Bruce, there aren't really any red flags to suggest that significant regression is coming for him next season.
No, he's in a great spot. Like I think they're probably gonna give Johnston the first shot at Pavelski's old position. They're gonna probably want Duchesne to play center on the second line. It's probably where they're gonna pin him to for the first little while. Because they do have a number of options, like Seguin can play center too. I think Johnston himself can play center.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got lots of the depth on this team is scary. Like it's scary.
There's definitely going to be some mixing and matching going on throughout the season. I'm sure there's going to be injuries, right? Like Hintz is another guy that rarely plays a full season. So
yeah. And what was the playoff line that did so well for them? That was what, Johnson, Stankoven, and who was the other one? Was it Ben? It
was Jamie Benn. Yeah.
Yeah. Like right now, the projections have them on 3 separate lines, but they played so well. There's a chance that line could reignite that, put that line back together. And so many options on that team.
We know where Bruce is looking for some fantasy value this year. He's going to be all stars all the time.
I might as well just rename my team to the Dallas Stars.
You might have to, Bruce. Yeah, by the end of it, you might have to. I do like that line. I think Jamie Benn with Logan Stankoven and Maverick Bourque looks like a really nice third line.
Yeah,
and then that does give them the option to put Wyatt Johnston either centering his own line on the second or playing up in that spot. I think he'd be a great winger. Like for him, moving from center to the wing and playing with Hintz and Jason Robertson, I think that's a line that could do some damage. And
God, you put any of that top 9 together and it's kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, and Wyatt Johnston obviously is a top target, Bruce. We're not going to dig into him too much because we've already talked about him lots.
No, because he's going to go. He's going to go early. He's going to.
Yeah.
You're not going to sneak him out of a draft anymore. He's known now.
Yes, and we've talked about him lots. I know lots of other fantasy hockey podcasts have given him lots of time as well. So that's not a guy we wanted to dig in tonight. And then just quickly, our projection for Duchesne before we move on: 24 goals, 66 points, 15 power play points, 186 shots on goal, 30 penalty minutes, 29 hits, and 34 blocks.
No, it's nice. I like that. Like I said, that's the depth on that Dallas team is just scary.
It's good. And I think that Duchesne's going to be somewhere in the top 6 next year. I just don't see him playing a third line role. So
I don't either.
No.
It's
all right. Next guy here. And this is another player, Bruce, that we've talked about at length last year. That's Gabriel Vilardi, center right wing, eligible for the Winnipeg Jets. 88% rostered in Fantrax, 23% in Yahoo. Right now, and this looks like a typo, but 171.2 is his average draft position in Yahoo, going in the 15th round. He's penciled into play with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, and on Power Play 1. And maybe it's penned in, Bruce, because I think there's a pretty good chance this guy is on the top line and top Power Play unit.
Absolutely. The only thing that holding Vilardi back is injuries. That's the only thing that's holding him back.
Yeah.
He played 47 games last year because of his injury issues. Put up 36 points. So you translate that out. That's what a 70,
63 point, 38 goal pace.
That's nice. I got all kinds of time for that. As long as he can stay healthy, the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah,
he's going to get. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we like Vilardi, and I think it was just unfortunate that he did get injured last year. But we saw what he did against the Oilers in the playoffs 2 seasons ago, and we all felt he was going to have a big year in Winnipeg, just getting more opportunity, and he did. But like you said, just the injury issue. So,
yeah, guess who won that trade?
Not the Kings, not the LA Kings,
not the Kings.
The trade tree on that one looks pretty ugly.
Yeah. Unless Kemper does really well for them this year,
which he could, and I think we talked about Kemper last week or the week before. He's just in a goalie friendly LA Kings system. I think he'll do really well. This the same way that Cam Talbot did, and we talked about Cam Talbot last summer. We thought. I mean, I know I did for sure. I think you were on the same page with me. I thought Talbot was going to be great in LA. He had a really good season. I think, barring injuries, Kemper's going to be really good there.
Yeah.
Going back to Vilardi quickly, there are some red flags with his production. Both his individual shooting percentage and power play shooting percentage were up relative to his career averages, and his team even strength shooting percentage finished the year at 11.1%. So there's a couple of things to watch out there with Vilardi, but I'm not overly concerned. He's also coming up to that 200 game breakout threshold. Bruce, he's got 199 NHL games under his belt, so there is that working in his favor as well.
Devin and I will be fighting over this player at our next draft.
We should probably do a few mock drafts, Bruce, to see where each guy's thinking at what round.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah. So we'll get into that later. But our 2024-25 projection for Gabe Vilardi is 32 goals, 64 points, 22 power play points, 209 shots on goal, 27 penalty minutes, 40 hits, and 26 blocks.
Very nice.
Some nice coverage there from him. And then our last forward of the evening this is probably more of a well-known player, but I'm going to be honest, Bruce, he wasn't really on my radar until last season, and then I was watching him closely, and now he's definitely on my draft list for this year, and that's Joel Eriksson Ek out of the Minnesota Wild. 97% rostered in Fantrax, 89% in Yahoo. Right now he's going on average 63.6 in Yahoo. That's the 6th round in a 12-team redraft league. Playing on the second line with Matt Boldy and Marcus Johansson, and on power play 1.
I will not be surprised if he goes higher.
Oh, absolutely, Bruce. I was going to make a point to mention that he could go in a multi-category league. So if your league counts hits, PIMs, blocks, face-off wins, it really doesn't get much better than Joel Eriksson Ek. He finished just outside the top 10 last season with a combined total of 503 shots on goal, hits, and blocks.
Yeah, so, like he would be Brady Tkachuk light.
Absolutely,
is how I would put him.
Yep,
he's not quite as where Brady Tkachuk is on there, but he's getting there.
Yeah, I think, and one thing that you always look for in a fantasy asset is a high shot volume, high shot rate. At 10.15 shots on goal per 60, he was an elite shooter in the NHL last year. He ranked just outside the top 40. So you've got category coverage, you've got shot production. There's really not much more you could ask for from a player, and he's getting the prime deployment too. Like Matt Boldy's going to have a great year.
Yeah.
So how early would you go on Joel Eriksson Ek, Bruce? Is he a target for you in the first 4 rounds, or is that too early?
I would probably say I would probably say the 5th round. I'd be comfortable.
That's really good value, I think, if you can get him in the 5th round, right?
I think so. Like if he was available in the 6th, absolutely. But I would think that at least it's just because of his category coverage, right? Like in the 2 leagues that we're in, PIMs, hits, and blocks all count for something. They're not a stat we don't use or
yeah. No, absolutely.
So you can get those little things, like especially with the hits, right? So in our league, 160 hits, that's what it's like half a point per hit, right? So that's an extra 80 points in a season.
Yeah,
that can make a big difference down the stretch in our league, especially.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you get him anywhere outside of the 4th round, like you'll be really.
If he's available later than the 6th round, grab him.
Oh, that would be an absolute steal. And I think, Bruce, there's going to be some leagues, if you got casual fans, he's just not a big name. So
no, not yet. But I think after the end of this season, he will be.
Yeah. One other thing I was going to mention, at 10.7%, his team even strength shooting percentage was above his career average, and so too was his secondary assist rate per 60 at 0.72. That was his second highest secondary assist rate of his career. So just a couple things to watch there in terms of regression, but I just think there's so many things to like about this player. I don't care. Our projection for Joel Eriksson Ek is 30 goals, 70 points, 23 power play points, 277 shots on goal, 53 PIMs, 160 hits, and 62 blocks.
Very nice. I'm curious. The one I'm curious about is that power play point, because power play points. If he's on the first power play for the full season, that number could be a lot higher than that.
It certainly could. Yep. I think it will be anyway,
because you look at Well, I think we're gonna. Is Faber in our list? I think he's an honorable mention.
He's an honorable mention, and the only reason for that, Bruce, is because I think we covered him in another episode. Maybe it was our breakouts. I can't remember, but
yeah.
And again, not a secret, right? A lot of people were on to Brock Faber last year, and with his contract extension, he's definitely on the radar of a lot of fans out there.
Yeah, because you look at the Wild's projected first power play unit is Zuccarello, Ek, Boldy, and then Faber and Kaprizov on the points.
Yeah,
those boys can swing the puck very, very nicely, and they get to, if they can actually get some of the pucks that actually go in, that power play can do a lot of damage. A lot of damage.
Yeah, I like that first unit. I think they're going to be good. So I'll be buying a piece of the Minnesota Wild, Bruce, in my drafts this fall. Not that you will be surprised by that, but
no, I went full Boldy last year. I drafted him in every league we had last year.
Well, I think you'll be doing the same with Faber this year. In fact, I know it. You'll be every draft we do. You'll be trying to get Faber at some point. Yeah, he's on the list. I know.
Maybe.
So, I mean, you kind of alluded to it, Bruce, but we got some other honorable mentions. So Taylor Hall is another one out of Chicago we wanted to mention. We talked about him on a previous episode.
Healthy.
Yeah. I think he's just a guy that he's talked about setting a goal this year. He wants to go out and try and score 30. He's changed up his shooting technique. If he can stay healthy, he's got the pedigree. That's a guy, and he's going undrafted, I think, still, Bruce. So,
oh, wow.
And even if it's in the last round of your draft, to pick up a Taylor Hall who could potentially play with Bedard at even strength on the power play, that's a player I like.
It's like me last year, right? The very last pick of the draft was Mark Stone.
Yeah.
And he played really well till his spleen issue in February. So I could not complain at all, because previous years, my last pick of the draft didn't even make it out of the second week of the season. So that's
what those last few rounds are for, right? It's just for guys you're taking swings in the last parts of your draft, because chances are they're not going to be on your roster in a couple weeks anyway. So
yeah, I got lots of time for a lot of our honorable mentions here.
Yeah, so
especially the next
Casey Middlestat. So okay, Bruce, Casey Middlestat, I know that's a player that you've had lots of interest in the last year or two.
Yeah, he started off really hot in Buffalo when they brought him up for his first season, and then nothing really went well for him here until the last couple years. And now that he's in Colorado, and I think he is penciled in as the second line center, I think. Let me just quickly double check here.
Yep.
Like second line center, get him penciled in there. So you get, like right now it's Letkinen and Kovalenko they've got him playing with, but if Landeskog and Nishushkin come back, he's going to have some really nice line mates. And he will be, and he's probably going later in drafts too. He'll be another one to keep an eye on that could put up some really nice points. If both Nishushkin and Landeskog come back, or even just Landeskog, or each one of them come back.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice.
No argument.
He's going to be one to watch.
Absolutely. Who else we got here? So, I mean, Landeskog, so you just mentioned him, but I think to me, that's a guy I'm going to be looking at in drafts to stash. That's Definitely. Someone you can just, because he's going to go in the last few rounds, I think, in most drafts.
I don't think it's going to last that long.
Well, maybe
I think he's going to be going in the, I think middle rounds is where he's going to go.
See, and that's too high for me. Like I will be passing on him if he's going anywhere before the 10th round. I will just have no interest. He's been off for basically 2 years.
Yeah, someone's going to do it.
Somebody will. I will not be that person, but I if I can get him in the late rounds, I will absolutely try and grab him and stash him. We talked about Wyatt Johnson. We talked about Logan Stankoven. Another guy I took a big swing on and missed last year was Barrett Hayton, but I think there's some potential in him
last year though.
Well, and he only shot 4.5% last year. His career average is just about 10%. So he shot 10.7 the year prior and 12.2 the year before that. I still think they're going to give him that deployment on the top line with Keller and Schmaltz, at least to start. And so I'm that's a player that I think you can get at the late rounds, or potentially just pick him up off the waiver wire later. Logan Cooley is kind of the same thing. I think he's going to have a good season. Dylan Guenther. So I think there's some kind of stealthy, low-key guys in Utah, right?
Yeah. I have lots of time for my namesake.
It's funny. I actually do. I think of you, Bruce, every time I read the name Dylan Guenther. I just think of Bruce Guenther. But so I think he's in line for a better season. And then the last guy here is Mark Scheifele. And I've been partial to Mark Scheifele as a fantasy player for a long time. He's just consistent, right?
Yeah,
He's just a
me
point
too.
per game guy.
Yeah.
Every year seems to be, and he's not losing his spot on the top line and the top power play unit. Yep. So,
and he's just having fun. Like I think he said that he's having fun now.
He's done headhunting people. He's just going to go have some fun and put up some points. So,
exactly.
Yeah. All right. I don't know why my camera keeps doing that, but we're going to move on to our defenseman here with Seth Jones out of Chicago, 85% rostered in Fantrax, 67% in Yahoo. Right now, Bruce, he's going 145.9 in the 13th round. He's going to play on the top pairing with Alex Vlasic and on the top power play unit. And I don't know. What's your take on Seth Jones? Like, I think the expectations were so high for so long that he feels like a disappointment every year, because really I think he's a player that's going to put somewhere between the high 30s and the mid 40s in terms of points, and then he gives you a little bit of category coverage in terms of blocks and hits.
Yeah. Oh, the problem with, and not so much even a problem with Jones, is when Chicago brought him in, when they brought him in and signed into that deal, they were not thinking full tear down and rebuild. When they brought him in, they were thinking of pushing, and that's why they wanted him. And then everything happened, the scandal and all that, and everything went sideways on him, and all of a sudden he's playing with an AHL team. So you can't really expect big things out of him when you're playing with basically an AHL team like he did for the last few years, sorry.
Yeah, temper expectations for sure, right? But
yeah, but now you look at what Chicago has done here. They've got Bedard, they've got some
Bertuzzi,
they got some good depth now for their wingers and centermen. And I picked up Jones in the draft late last year, thinking that, get some time with Bedard on the power play, he'll pick up some points. Didn't really happen last year, but this year there's a lot more depth there to go around. So I'm tempering my expectations, but I like the 13th round or so for him. I like that. It's nice. It's a nice spot for him, I think.
Even a couple rounds earlier, Bruce. Like I'm not opposed to going and grabbing Seth Jones in the 10th or 11th round, potentially, like depending on who's available and what's going on in the draft, obviously. But
because it sounds like Korchinski's going to start. He's going to obviously be a camp, but it sounds like Korchinski's going to start the year in the AHL. So that's
we've been hearing
competition that's not there. So
no, he's getting top pairing, top power play time, and I don't think that's going to change this year.
No.
The other thing I want to mention, Bruce, too, is he actually produced as a top 75 defenseman at even strength last season. He posted a 1.06 points per 60. Sorry, this is the past 3 seasons. And that put him in line with players like Jacob Trouba, Neil Pionk, Drew Doughty, and Moritz Seider. So even strength, I mean, he's putting up some points.
Yeah, that's nice.
In terms of category coverage, I guess you could do a little bit worse. He played on pace for or over 200 shots on goal, 107 hits, and 156 blocks the past 3 seasons as well. So he is offering a little bit of category coverage.
That's nice too.
Yeah. So our projection for Seth Jones, 10 goals, 44 points, 16 power play points, 209 shots on goal, 35 PIMs, 104 hits, and 149 blocks.
No, that's nice. I like that.
So I think at the price point, Seth Jones has a real opportunity to return some value. Bruce, I'm going to introduce this player and then let you talk about him because I know you love him. And of course, he plays for your second favorite team, the Dallas Stars. It's Thomas Harley, rostered 97% in Fantrax, 59% in Yahoo. He's going right now 134.6 in the 12th round. He's going to play on the top pairing with Miro Heiskanen and on power play too. Let's get your thoughts on this, Bruce, and then I can maybe dive into some other fun facts.
Well, like you said, Dallas signed him last year, and he literally came out of nowhere, right? And he's just started putting up points. He had next to no power play time until Heiskanen got hurt, and then when he did put him on the power play, it took him a little bit, but then he started producing. But the big thing for him is a lot of his production is 5-on-5, which for a defenseman is fantastic.
That's what you want for sure.
And yeah, you're looking at his ADP is the 12th round. I was just looking up Heiskanen and see where he's going at. He's going at 54, so he's going early 5th round, which is
that's rich for Heiskanen for sure.
I and I'm probably not the only one, but I'm not going to be afraid to say that I would not be surprised if Harley ended up with more points at the end of the season than Heiskanen did.
I like that, Bruce. That's a hot take. We're gonna clip that one for sure. Time marker 35
Go
minutes.
ahead, time that one. I will not, because Heiskanen had that really good first year, and then it's kind of tailed off.
Right.
Since then, where Harley's playing with house money, right? Like,
sure he is.
I think he's an RFA right now, I believe, if memory serves. But yeah, I would not be surprised if he ends up with more points than Heiskanen does at the end of the season. Would not surprise me at all.
Okay, well, time will tell on that front. I do say I like Thomas Harley. He had a great year last year. He finished just outside the top 20 in scoring by defensemen, so 47 points and 15 goals. I don't think he's going to be able to reproduce that same goal scoring production, Bruce. He shot at 10.4% last year.
Sure he can.
I just don't see 10.5% happening again. It could. It certainly could. He's playing with Dallas. Who knows? But I think
he just has to be the trailer on the breakout. He'll put all kinds of points in.
Oh yeah, sure.
Chasing everybody else.
Sure he could. Yeah. My projection here was based, I think, on a 7% shot rate. So it's just a little bit more conservative, but we're going to see what happens. He's going to play some big minutes. I think he's going to play, around 21 minutes a night. He did have a career high IPP at 46.5% though. So that was a little high.
He's only played one season.
I know. So you don't want to take, it's a smaller sample size, but almost a 50% IPP for a defenseman is high. Yeah. So definitely that's a bit of a concern. And I don't know, Bruce, the 12th round still feels a bit early for Thomas Harley. Like, I think he's going to have a good season, but I don't know if he's going to be able to return the value. Like, the players that are available in the 12th round, to me, I don't know that I'm reaching for Thomas Harley, but it sounds like you're really big on him. So,
well, when we get to our projection, when you look at his projection, I don't find that being too bad. Like,
I think it's reasonable, but I don't feel good about it, right? I don't feel like I'm getting a ton of value at that spot, but I do like the player for this year.
I'm just wondering on that first power play unit, if Heiskanen continues to not, that they flip the two of them, and then that's kind of where I see Harley taking off, because once he was able to get his feet wet in there, he did pretty well when Heiskanen was out there for scoring for power play points.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking to a listener about this, I believe on Twitter or X, just to say that Heiskanen is one of those players that every year he has more value in real hockey than he does in fantasy.
Yep.
And saying that, I've seen some projections that have Miro Heiskanen at like 70 points next year.
Yeah, it's tough to see after the first season, it was great, right? And then it tailed off after that.
All right, so our projection for Thomas Harley, 10 goals, 43 points, 9 power play points, 46 shots on goal, 20 penalty minutes, 72 hits, and 134 blocks.
That's some decent category coverage there too.
He does, yeah. And is that kind of in line with your expectations, Bruce? What do you think? 10 goals, 43 points?
I think so, yeah. In the mid-40s for points. I like that.
All right. And the next guy we got here, this is our last defenseman, but this is a player that I have rostered plenty of seasons in the past, particularly when he was in Carolina years ago. Justin Falk for the St. Louis Blues, rostered in 77% of Fantrax leagues, 51% in Yahoo. Right now, his ADP is 164.7. He's going in the 14th round. He's going to play on the second pairing, or they've got him penciled in on the second pairing with Philip Broberg and on the first power play unit. So everyone knows Torrey Krug is done for the year with his pre-arthritic condition with his ankle, whatever they're calling it. Kind of an interesting situation. And I think nobody really benefits more from this than Justin Falk. I think he's tried and true as a power play defenseman at times. They could put Scott Perunovich in there to play on the power play. They could have Philip Broberg. But my money is Justin Falk, 32-year-old Justin Falk. He posted 47 and 50-point seasons in 2 of the past 3 years.
Yeah, I don't. I have looking at where his ADP is in that. That's a pick all day for me, especially.
It seems like an easy one. And what I like about this, Bruce, too, is that his production, Falk's production, dropped last year. So 30 points in 60 games, and his time on ice was down by a couple minutes as well. So anyone who rostered this player last year is probably going to be a little bit cold on him. And I think that's reflected in his ADP in the 14th round. But if you're not paying attention, you should know that Justin Falk shot a career low 1.5% last season. 1.5%, Bruce.
Wow, that's yikes.
That's not going to happen again this year. He's not going to shoot 1.5%. That's insane. His team even strength shooting percentage with him on the ice dropped to 7.5%, and his secondary assist percentage was at a 5-year low, 43%, 12 secondary assists. So I think there's definitely some arrows pointing up for Justin Falk for next year. And they've got Dylan Holloway there now. They've got lots of guys in the top 6 that can produce some points. I like Justin Falk on the power play.
Yeah.
We can fight over that one too, Bruce, if you want.
Okay.
10 goals, 51 points, 16 power play points, 191 shots on goal, 39 penalty minutes, 129 hits, and 126 blocks. So this is definitely a player that, if you're in bash formats, is going to provide a little added value for you beyond just the power play. Okay, so that's going to do it for defensemen. We do have a couple honorable mentions here, one being Brock Faber, who we touched on. Bruce, I think you and him wear the same glasses, so that might be another connection between the two of you. Anything else you want to say about Brock Faber quick?
No, I think I have lots to say about him, but we don't have enough time.
Okay, fair enough. And then the other guy here is Mikhail Sergachev. I like Sergachev. This is another player that I think I'm going to be targeting in my drafts this fall. In my mind, he should be playing power play 1, and I'll be drafting him sort of with that in mind. But what do you think, Bruce? Is he getting power play 1, or is it going to be Sean Durzi still?
I think Durzi's going to start the season at power play 1, but I think Sergachev will end the season at power play 1.
Okay. That's music to my ears, because that's really all you care about. If he's playing power play 1 come fantasy playoff time, that's all I need.
Exactly.
Perfect. All right, so let's move on then. We'll finish up with some goaltenders here. Again, just for the purpose of this episode, we're trying to target some players that maybe are less, getting a little less attention and a little less obvious. Everyone's aware, Bruce, there's a ton of elite level goaltending in the Central Division. You've got Jake Ottinger, you've got UC Saros, Connor Hellebuck. Those have been 3 of the most consistent, well, especially Saros and Hellebuck, the most consistent goaltenders in the NHL over the past 5 years. To a much lesser extent, you've got Alexander Gorgiev out of Colorado. That's a guy you look at just because Colorado's always so good.
Yeah.
Out of those 4, Bruce, who do you like the most?
Oh, I'd probably take Hellebuck myself.
I'm with you. Yeah, that's my guy for sure.
If I had to draft a goalie early in the draft, the only one I'm drafting is Hellebuck early.
Makes perfect sense to me. I'm right there with you. Although, Bruce, your guy, Jake Ottinger, the Dallas Stars, come on.
I know, but last year kind of, it's like...
He had a rough start. Last year. Don't I know it?
So it's...
Yeah.
And
I think
we all know my penchant to pick goalies in the first 10 rounds is pretty much slim and none these days. So it's...
I think I'm gonna follow you that way, Bruce. It's going to be no goaltenders for the first 10 rounds or so. That's kind of the strategy I'm going to follow too. But
last year it was no goalies and no defensemen before the 10th round. So
it almost paid off for you, Bruce. You were right there.
Almost
so
paid
close.
off.
Yeah.
I just missed it by that much.
UC Saros is another guy. I think you're going to get him a little later than Hellebuck, but I like some of the things that Nashville did in the summer here, and he could have a really good year too. So
he sure could.
Okay,
he's gonna get playing time. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, no question. But trying to find some of these less obvious selections. So we're gonna move on to some less flashy names in Jordan Binnington, Connor Ingram, Philip Gustafson, and Bruce. I know how much you love Jordan Binnington.
When is my buddy Binning going this? While you're talking, I'm gonna check where my buddy's going.
He's going right now 96.6. He's going in the 9th round.
Oh, good. Someone will take him before me. It's before the 10th round.
Yeah, so you won't make that mistake again this year, Bruce. Somebody else will do it.
No, someone else can have that. Although I didn't draft him last year, so he did well. So,
yeah,
I could just screw everybody, draft Binnington, and then the Blues will go for shit this year.
I guess we'll see.
Which would be justice for getting Broberg and Holloway.
And Holloway, I could see it.
But I digress.
I do think, Jordan Binnington, if you handcuff him with Joel Hofer, like that is maybe a nice 0G option that you could look at. It's not one that I'm particularly interested in, but I think if you're looking at someone a little bit later, but the two guys we really want to talk about, Bruce, were Connor Ingram and Philip Gustafson. So we'll start with Connor Ingram. For the Utah Hockey Club. I hate that name, by the way. I hate that they're delaying the whole reveal of the logo until next year so people can buy jerseys. It drives me nuts. Anyway,
Utah Yeti.
Well, do something. Anyway,
Yetis.
So yeah, rostered in 97% in Fantrax leagues, 49% in Yahoo. He's going in the 12th round at 141.1. He's probably going to be the 1A or maybe just the bona fide starter. Like I looked at this, Bruce, and for him to start probably 50 games is sort of the expectation.
Yeah, we got a good indication of what he was going to be like last year. I think he got over. Oh, I can't remember. Oh shoot! Now I just had a complete blank here because he went through. Oh, what does he have? I think it's like a form of OCD.
Yes,
that's really messing with him.
Yeah,
and he got himself some help. He got himself figured out before the beginning of the season because you look at the way he was within Nashville, right? He was the next big goalie out of Nashville, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they keep Lankin in and they let Ingram go. And it's like, what the heck happened, right? And then it came out last year, OCD and his struggles with that. And he's got that under control. And now we got to see last year how good a goalie he can be. And yeah, if you can get him in the 12th round this year, that would be because Utah is no more. Oh, it's the Arizona Coyotes. We'll take your crappy players for picks.
Yeah.
Utah wants to win, and Ingram is going to push very hard for that starting spot. I don't think you're going to see a 50-50 split. I think you're going to see Ingram's going to, at least to me anyway, Ingram's going to be the starter. Vejmelka will be the backup. Yeah,
that's kind of the way I see it too, Bruce. And just talking about how good he was last year, from the start of the season to January 22nd, he posted a 17-9-1 record, a .919 save percentage, a .247 goals against, a 14 goals saved above average, and 5 shutouts.
I know.
He was incredible. Nice. He was the 0G steal of the season last year. Anyone that grabbed him through the first half of the year was laughing, but things turned quickly, right? It was really bad after January 22nd. He posted a 6-12-2 record, an .889 save percentage, 3.57 goals against, and a negative 8.3 goals saved above average.
But then the team went for crap too after that, so it wasn't entirely him. It was kind of the whole team. So
yeah, it was. But my point being is, he was fantastic, and then he kind of fell off the rails. But yeah, I think just the fact that the ownership in Utah really is, they want to win. They want this to be a successful franchise right away. The team's going to be better.
Once the rumors started coming out that there was a chance that they were leaving the desert and going somewhere else, the wind just went right out of that team's sails, and they just went for shit after that.
Yeah. So like we said, they brought in Mikhail Sergachev, they brought in John Marino, they brought in Ian Cole. So they basically retooled their entire defense as well. And I think that's going to bode really well for Connor Ingram and for Karel Vejmelka. So yeah, I think 50 starts is kind of the range that I would see him in on an improved club, and anywhere past the 10th round, I would probably have some time for Connor Ingram.
Definitely.
All right. And then the other guy was Philip Gustafson. 2022-23 saw him post an outstanding .931 save percentage, 2.1 goals against, 31 goals saved above average, 22 wins and 39 appearances. He followed that campaign up, Bruce, with a fairly brutal .899 save percentage and a goals against above 3. One positive for him last season was that he actually played more games, 45, than Marc-Andre Fleury, who only played 40. And that's a trend that probably continues into next season as Marc-Andre Fleury turns 40 years old.
Yeah. And then there's also the Wallstead factor coming in here too. So depending on how things go, Wallstead could be a factor too.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to see another .931 save percentage from Gustafson, but maybe something closer.
It'd be
to
nice,
his,
but I can't see it.
No, but I think probably closer to his career average. Hey, Bruce, like a 9-12. 2.5, 2.7 goals against, something like that, I think is probably where you're going to see him. And if you can get him anywhere close to the 14th round, I think those are reasonable numbers. I know you like Minnesota, and I think that he's a player that's going to return some value at a later point in the draft.
Well, and they'll hopefully have Brodin and Spurgeon back to start the season. So they lost both those guys last year during the season, and that had a devastating effect on their defense. So having those two guys back will definitely help as well.
All right, so there you go. That's going to do it for tonight, guys. Our top target series covering the Central Division. I guess an honorable mention to Jordan Binnington as well, although I don't like to give that guy too much credit. But so that's going to do it for this week. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Twitter or X at FHHacks and on Instagram at Fantasy Hockey Hacks. Make sure you give us a follow on YouTube as well. We're starting to post all of our short form content there, so little audio, video clips of some of these episodes that we've been pulling out. And we'll probably continue doing that for the regular season too, Bruce, just so waiver wire targets and stuff like that. If you want to see some short form content, keep it up.
Bruce's really bad hot takes.
Bruce's hot takes, all that good stuff is going to be available on YouTube. We also have our Reddit community. So we've got a couple hundred followers in there, I think. But, if you want to ask us questions, absolutely fire away there. Fire away on social media. We also have our fan mail feature, Bruce, through Buzzsprout. So we actually had a listener out of Buffalo, New York, and I believe it was Joe was his name. But anyway, so Joe, if you're listening, thanks for listening and supporting the show and for your feedback. We'll definitely take that feedback into consideration and maybe cover some more category coverage type players for you. And with that, Bruce, I think that's going to do it. So next week we're coming back with, what are we doing here? The Metropolitan Division is next week. So looking forward to that. Yeah. And we may or may not have a guest. I got a couple people potentially lined up, but maybe we'll have Tyler back next week as well, and we'll go from there. But anyway, so thank you everyone again. Really appreciate the support. Looking forward to it next week, Bruce.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
All right. Take care.